Hey everyone, welcome back to another classy video, and in this one we are going to follow up on the previous video about the black crush or near black detail loss on the LG 2021 OLEDs. So in that video I used the luminance control in the white balance section to boost the 2.5 through 40 range, and this is just a fresh measurement of those controls and settings, and I actually adjusted the OLED brightness to target 150 nits for white, as you can see there. And then the bottom end down here, you can see everything still tracked pretty well. The line still mostly fits behind the yellow line, everything pretty much as it was earlier. Well, I've gone through quite a bit of dark content looking for any problems. I've checked this using multiple gamma settings, multiple video modes, and again I did contact John Reformato, the calibrator at Value Electronics, and had confirmed what I was testing with him, and I haven't seen any issues firsthand, and none of the people that I've heard use that method have seen any issues. However, there's another calibrator who said that you can see artifacts by using the luminance control. So because of that, I want to make this correction. Again, I haven't seen it personally. Apparently it was a thing with last year. He said that he confirmed that it affects this year as well, so I will believe him. If you still want to just use the luminance and you don't see any artifacts, nothing wrong with that. But now we're going to try a little bit more in-depth method of using the RGB, the red, green, and blue controls instead of luminance, and see how much adjustment we need to achieve this same result. So that's what this video will be about. And again, it's just a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more correct. It's just, this is typically what a calibrator would do. And the point of these is most people aren't going to pay a ton of money to calibrate their TVs. And there is significant low-level detail loss that needs to be corrected, so I'm trying to find the best way for you to do that without having to pay for calibration. So let me get testing here. Let me just show real quick that I am in ISF Dark mode. Oops. Where is my focus? There we go. And for 150 nits, I was using 55 on the OLED brightness. These are standard at 85 and 50. Peak brightness is off because it affects the color accuracy. Gamma you can set to 2.2 or leave it at BT 1886, which is the same as 2.4. Right now I'm aiming for, like I said, 150 nits total because it used to be, or typically is recommended for 100 for movie watching at night. I find that to be a little dim. A lot of people do. So for me, I'm aiming for 150. Again, you can change this. It doesn't affect the grayscale. So anyway, if we go into the white balance settings here, go back to 22 point. And we didn't do anything on the high level, so let's drop back down. So, and you can see there's adjustment. So this is where I did have these adjustments made to the luminance value. And so what I'm going to do is go back through and see if we can get the same result just using red, green, and blue and having this at 0, just in case there would be any artifacting issues. And again, this is just like another step up the advanced scale of settings, I guess you could say. So again, it's a little more technically correct, but again, if you want to use the luminance and you know that there's a possibility of artifacts, be on the lookout. Let me know if you see artifacts. Again, I haven't. And also using the Spears and Munzel disc, there's the the low dynamic range setting in the SDR mode, where there's black bars across the top and bottom, and I think it's 64 has the little dots. That's the recommended. You don't want to clip below. Standard out of the box, it was clipping 64 through 69, which was quite a bit of detail loss. With this setup, I saw no artifacts on that pattern, and it went all the way to 64 like it should. So again, we're going to just make sure that there's no possible issues. This is why I did contact another calibrator to make sure there shouldn't be any issues, but another one is saying that there could be, and I don't want to give any misinformation or any settings that could possibly hurt your image or have a negative impact. Alright, and I did a reset on the white balance settings before moving forward, just to do this one more time to show where we are with no adjustments. And we still have that big drop off right there in the lower range, and a little bit up in the mid range. And then here's the numbers. And here's the RGB balance, and you can see that just big old dip that we need to correct. Alright, so at the 2.5%, we can't measure that. So based on what the 5% is and wanting a smooth roll up, I've just set those to 10. And then at 5%, which I can measure, I'm at 13 for each, which comes in a little bit low, but again, I'd rather be a little bit low than a little bit over, just to be safe that more people aren't going to overshoot and be too high. And here's the RGB balance for 5%. So now to move on to 7.5, which again there's no pattern for. So what I want to do for that is pretty much just match the 5% or land somewhere between the 5% and 10% numbers. So let me just start with 13 on red, green, and blue, and then we will go to 10%. And if 10% is significantly higher, then I'll push these to 15. So, and because we know 10% needed quite a bit last time, I'm going to start 10% at 15. So, as you can see, standard 10% RGB balance is way low. So 15 for each looks like this. So when it comes to, blue still being quite low, green being a little low, red being on, with a normal calibration I would want to even those out. But again, your panel could be different. You could have more blue and less red. You could have even less green, and it's completely random based on your panel. All I want to do is raise the stuff without going too high. So if we come down here, you can see the 10% is 0.902 when target is 0.938. So that's pretty much good enough right there. So now I'm going to move on to 15 and keep going up to 40. Alright, so at 15%, did plus 11 red, green, and blue. And that's what it looks like. Coming in at 2.264. And now for 20%. Did 10. Oops, too far. And 20%. 20% looks like that. And 4.27 instead of 4.31. Then at 25%. came in at 7.099, which is the only one that's a little bit over, but one click less was substantially less. So, but that should be alright. And at 25%, it was at 8 for each. And at 30%, we're at 7. Which looks like this. Trying to go through this a little bit quickly for you. At 35%, we were at +5. Came out like that. And 14.59 instead of 14.764. 40% was 19.78 instead of 19.805, with +5 to red, green, and blue. Balance looks like that. And I did do 45 just to help smooth out this section a little bit right here. And 45 looks similar and measured in just below the 25.66. And at 45, I just did +2 of each. So you can see that the RGB balance pretty much stayed the same. Our Eotf tracks nicely. These values all look pretty good. And this is a little bit more involved with some more settings that have to be changed, but supposedly we'll have less or no artifacts in the dark range. So I'm going to watch some content and see if I notice anything, and if I do, I'll put it in the comments below, or the description below, sorry. I was going to end it there, but there's been a lot of requests and questions about HDR, so I did do that. It is similar in increasing the RGB, or red, green, and blue, just the value levels are different, and you'll see as I show that now. Alright, now I want to check out the Eotf curve in HDR. I haven't made any advanced changes, just adjusted some stuff here. Tone mapping's off, peak brightness on high, white balance, it's all left alone, warm 50. And so this is how we measure, and at the low end, it's a little bit lower, but it's not nearly as bad as SDR was. If we come over here, you can see there is a gap right through here. Alright, so in HDR, these 22 points are vastly different, and you have point values that, like, so if you divide by 10, and we want to adjust the 50 range. Pretty much anything, you know, from 543, 518, 492, and like those are all going to affect that range. And then from 463, 430, 393, those all affect the 40 range, and so on downwards. So what I have ended with is on the low end, can't measure this low, but want a smooth roll up to the 10%. And so if this at 6, code value 17, and then 53 is 7. That went too far. Then 148, I have at 6. 235 is 10. 300, 10. 350 is 5. And you got to apply it equally to red, green, and blue. 393, 10. 430, 5, 463, 4, 492, 5, 518, 5, 543, 3, and we can see our curve is nice and flat all the way up now. And down here, all these values are just under target, which is what we want. Once we get up to the 60 plus, that's where, you know, it starts getting really bright, and the margin of error, you know, it'll constantly change every time you do a measurement. So for the low end detail, only needed to go up that high. And we can see up here everything's pretty flat and even. So that should be good for your HDR modes. Now, depending on your source, your code values may be slightly different. So I'm just going to go through them and show that everything carried over. So the ones that I set, all those values carried over to these code values. So if yours look a little different, you can still use the same settings. And in the description, I'll put both code values that you could see, and you just use the same settings, and it'll be pretty much the same. And also, don't forget when you are finished to hit the Apply to All Inputs button, so that way that picture mode, all those settings will be saved on each input that you use. So that's HDR done. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.